All right. Now, as I told you yesterday, that I'll be assuming that most of you are new to cloud, right? You have no experience whatsoever. You've never even heard of the term Azure or AWS or cloud computing, right? So, what is this new technology? It came around 2010, right? Around that time, plus minus 2, 3 years, and it has taken over everything, right? It has taken over the traditional way how we used to work, how we used to, imagine our data centers, how we used to implement our data centers, and there's a huge difference now. So my very first question to all of you is, what is cloud computing, right? And to answer that, I would want you to imagine that, let's say you want to write a document. All right. So I'll be using a writing pad here, and I'll be writing stuff on the board. Please do let me know if you have any problem, with understanding the color, the language, right, or the handwriting. I'll try to be better at it, right? So now what I want you to understand is, let's say that you have a document, right, and you want to write this document. Traditionally, you would be on your machine. So your machine is like this, and you'll open something called as MS Word, right? And on MS Word, which is installed on your machine, obviously, uh, you'd write this file, right? You'd create this file and you'd save it on your computer's hard drive, right? So there's a hard disk. It could be a hard disk, it could be an SSD attached to your computer, and this is where this file would be synced, correct? What happens if this hard disk crashed? All right. What happens if this hard disk crashed or some other problem in your system, right? Your computer broke for some reason. You could lose your document, right? You could lose your data. Now, if you wanted to work on it somewhere else, you'd have to copy this file in a USB drive, email it to yourself, right? Or email it to yourself, or transfer it to some other device in some other way. Now, if this was done using cloud computing, right, it will change the entire scenario. You can, with the help of cloud computing, you can use something like Google Docs, right? They have this software as a service offering from Google Docs, which runs on the browser, right? And it lets you create your files on the browser itself, right? Your document is saved automatically on Google's computer, not just your own, right? And it is accessible from everywhere else, right? You can access it from anywhere, right? Any browser, any computer, even your mobile phone, right? You can open it from any device, right? So that is what cloud computing does. It lets you create resources, right, on the cloud, which can be accessed from anywhere through any device over the internet, right? So cloud computing basically means that you are using computing services, right? These computing services could be softwares, right? This could be storage, all right? It could be processing power. Now, what is processing power? Basically, your CPU plus RAM. So you can create all of these resources now over the internet instead of your own device. And that is the power that cloud computing gives you. All right. Think of cloud computing like you're using electricity, right? You don't need to own a power plant to use electricity at home. You just plug your device into the wall, right? And the electricity comes from the power company. You pay for the amount of electricity that you use, right? And the maintenance, management, everything is taken care of by the power company itself, right? They'll make sure that the electricity is always available, right? And the cloud computing works in the same way. Instead of buying and maintaining your own set of servers or softwares or hardwares, right, you use what you need from a cloud provider. Now we have many cloud providers. The prominent ones are AWS, right? We are going to use Azure, right? There is GCP, Google Cloud Platform, Amazon Web Services, and Microsoft Azure, right? And you access all these services over the internet. All right. You're not going to go to the market or order it and then it's going to be delivered physically to you. Nothing. All right. Everything happens over the internet only. The provider is going to take care of the security, the updates, the hardware, and everything. All right. So what's happening behind the scene is when you're using cloud computing, when you use cloud services, your data and your programs are actually running on powerful computers which are present in large buildings called data centers. All right. So these companies have created these data centers, right? The data centers are spread across the world. It's not just a single data center present in a single physical location. No, they've created multiple data centers around the world. In India itself, Azure has 3 data centers. All right. So when we talk about Azure, currently Azure has 3 data centers in India itself. We have something called as India Central. So I'll say India Central. We have one data center in India South, right? And then you have India West. All right. And you know where these locations are? India Central is Pune. So if anybody is here from Pune, Azure has a data center there. India South is present in Chennai, right? And India West is present in Mumbai, right? So Azure has 3 data centers. This means three, regions present in India itself. We call them regions, right? And like this, Azure has almost 70 plus regions. All right. Earlier we had 60 plus. We've added more, and we have 70 plus regions. And these regions have their subtypes, right? We'll discuss more on that. But what's happening behind the scene, as I said, right? Your programs, your services, everything is running on these, inside these data centers, which you are going to access over the internet. You connect to these services using the internet, right? You don't need to know where inside the data center my data is stored. And neither Azure will allow you to enter the data center and see anything, right? If you want to connect to it, you do it over the internet, right? Another use case, right, which will explain you what how it actually works, is an example of a virtual machine. All right. So what happens with a VM is, let's say I have a machine, I have my own, let's say laptop, right, that I'm using, and this is, let's say, i5, right? It has, let's say, 4 cores of CPU. It has 8 GB RAM. It has, let's say, 512 GB SSD storage, right? And I want to, do some machine learning tasks. I do want to do some heavy tasks on this machine. And to do that, let's say I want to train a machine learning model. And to do that, I need, let's say, my minimum requirements is 8 cores of CPU, right? 32 GB RAM. And the data that I'm going to use to train my model is 1 TB in size. So can I do that on my own machine? Can I do it on my own laptop? The answer is no, I cannot. There's no way I can run this workload on my machine because this is the minimum requirement to do that. So what I can do, there are 2 options now available for me. Either I go to the market, buy a new machine, right? Now, if I ask you, I don't know how many of you are into this, but can you tell me how much would a machine with this configuration cost? An estimate? If it's a Windows machine that we're going for, how much would it cost?
Between 1 to
Anything?
1.5 lakh.
Yes, absolutely. Upward of 1 lakhs, right? So you'll get it for 1+ lakhs, almost around that, right? You may get it for cheaper also. But then assume you're getting a good quality machine, right? If you want to buy. So this is 1 lakh rupees invested, right? This is a capital investment. Now, given that you needed this machine only to run a particular workload, is it a good idea to go ahead and buy a new machine? If I just need it for a couple of days or let's say a couple of weeks, is it a good idea to invest this much amount of money into it?
No.
Right? And then the process itself, the process of getting this machine, you need to step out, you need to go to the market, you need to go to several shops, you need to talk to people, right? And then maybe even bargain, and then eventually you agree on a price, and then you bring it home, and then you set it up, and there's a delay associated here, right? Associated with the entire process of acquiring this machine, right? Now, So this is the first option that you have. Let's talk about the second option. The second option is that you go to portal.azure.com, right? Within this portal, which is the Azure portal, you ask Azure to create a virtual machine. Once you ask Azure to create a virtual machine, you describe the configuration of this VM. All right. So what is the configuration going to be? I need 8 cores of CPU, right? I need, let's say, 32 GB RAM. I need uh, 2 terabytes of SSD storage, something like this, right? This is the configuration that you give. And you know what will happen? Within 5 minutes, and 5 minutes is the upper limit. It happens within 2 minutes only. Within 2 minutes, you'll get it. But let's assume within 5 minutes, you'll have the machine ready. All right. Machine will be ready. You can use your existing laptop. You can sign into that virtual machine from this laptop. And in your screen, what you will be seeing is the virtual machine screen, the new laptop that you've got. And it works also exactly the same manner. All right. So basically using my current laptop, I'd be able to connect to a machine which is, created somewhere else in a data center. And I'm accessing it. I am deploying my program on it. I am adding my data to that storage, right? And I'm ready to, train my model. You know what the best part about this process is? That I don't have to pay 1+ lakhs over here, right? I'll have to pay something around 20 to 30 rupees. All right. 20 to 30 rupees per hour. That is the cost. Very cost effective. 20 to 30 rupees per hour. Let's say I'm working 5 days, right, on this, and each day I want to work on 8 hours, right? So that's almost 40 hours of requirement. And if you multiply it by 30 also, how much cost? How much did you pay? Right? You end up paying almost 1200 rupees, and that is it. So now, something that was being done in more than 1 lakh, you ended up paying only 1200 rupees for that job. That is the amount of cost cloud computing saves you. And when you're done, you get rid of the resources. You close them. All right. You don't need them. Once your work is done, once everything is in place, you can get rid of these machines and your cost will become zero. Then you'll not be charged anything. All right. So that is the benefit of cloud. And it's not just limited to a single service. It's not just limited to one virtual machine. It involves everything. Let me show you all the different services that exist on Azure. And you'll see a lot of things here. So don't worry what you see on the screen here. So this is what the Azure portal looks like. It's very simple, right? If you're feeling that it's a bit complicated, this entire screen, what does it look like? Don't worry. We'll go to each and everything one by one. First, I just want to show you what all different services are there. So if I click on all services here, they have divided the services based on categories. All right. So I have services related to AI and machine learning on Azure that will help me, create AI resources or create my AI models, programs, right? So I have Azure machine learning, I have Azure bot service, I have face recognition APIs, right? I have computer vision, I have custom vision, right? Translators. So all of these different services are going to help you with AI-based workloads. Similarly, there are analytical services also that some of them we are going to use. For example, Stream Analytics, Synapse Analytics, Databricks, Data Lake, Data Factory, Data Lake Storage Gen 1 and Data Lake Storage Gen 2 also, right? Power BI. So these are analytical services that let you work with the data. Then there are compute related services, right? Virtual machines, app services. Now, app service is a service that lets you host web applications, right? Earlier, you would have seen when you want to host a web application, you want to manage a lot of components, right? You want to manage the hosting of the application, you want to manage the code for your application, right? Access to your application, creating a firewall. Azure lets you manage all of that from a single place. That is app service. So these are compute related services, containerization related services, Kubernetes, Docker, right? Database related services, Azure Cosmos DB, Azure SQL databases, right? You have Oracle databases, everything database related services, DevOps related services, Azure DevOps, GitHub, all right? Creating projects, application insights, all those things. General services, right? So these are general services. Hybrid cloud services, services that let you, connect to on-premises also and work with the cloud also. So it's not just a single ETL task that you do on Azure. Azure is a set of various services that lets you do everything that you're going to do in your own data center, right? So when you have your own data center, right, you put your data there, you work with your data there, you host your applications there, you create your machines there, virtual machines. The same thing you're going to do on Azure also. But here you will have more tools to process the data. I will work with Databricks also, I'll work with Synapse also, I'll work with Data Factory also, right? So ETL is a subset here. ETL is a part of the Azure platform, but ETL is not, everything that Azure is. And it lets you do a lot of other things also. It lets you manage identity and access, right, in your organization. Now, how many of you, when you joined your organization, you would have received a credential, right? Did you? When you joined your organization, you got a credential, you got a username and password,
Yes.
correct? Now, any authorization that they want to give you, whether to access a particular site, whether to access a particular room, they would enable it on that user, correct? So that comes under identity and access management. Azure offers you identity and access management also, all right, through something known as Entra ID. So we are not going to go to the portal as of now because there's a lot we need to discuss before we go there. But then this is what you can do on Azure. You can create compute services like a virtual machine here, right? You can create a virtual machine. You can create something as an app service. You can create networking based services also, like a firewall, like a VPN, like a virtual network, right? What is virtual network? Why is it required? We'll discuss. All right. And that is what I meant yesterday when I told you that everything that Azure does, we are going to discuss it. In fact, first, I think a week and a half, we are going to only discuss Azure. We are only going to discuss what all these different services are, what is networking on Azure, why is a virtual network required, right? How to create a virtual network, how to create a virtual machine, how to create an app service, how to create a database, how to create a storage account. All of that we'll see. And how do we work with them also? All right. Storage related services, analytics related services we saw, right? So that is what cloud computing is in reality. Clear? Any doubts? Why is it called cloud? The term cloud comes from, the way uh, the internet is often, drawn in diagrams, right? So when you were,
Means whatever we are using the services through the network, right?
can you repeat?
No, no, whatever we are using the services through the network, no? That's
Yes, yes,
called
yes,
cloud computing.
yes, absolutely, over the internet.
Mm.
All right. So whenever we talk about internet, you would have seen this diagram, right? People draw a cloud to describe internet. So the fluffy cloud that connects different computers and devices. So cloud computing means using computing resources that are actually somewhere else, but you're accessing it over the internet, right? Now that brings us to a very important question. What happened before cloud computing? How did companies and organizations work before cloud computing? Right? That is also a valid question. If I'm telling you what cloud
Physically,
computing is, yeah, go ahead.
physically storing the data, na? In the
Yes,
physical
yes,
premises,
yes. They used to create something called as
and
data centers.
uh,
So you would have
storing the data
seen,
in physical location, whatever data they
yes.
required, it is
So we
storage
used
and
to,
managing the.
exactly,
When they multiple
absolutely.
resource will be. Okay, okay, you can continue.
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. You're absolutely correct. We are doing it, in our own data centers. So what these companies would do, right? I am talking about 90s, 80s, 2000s, early 2000s, right? So even today, some of the organizations are doing it. I'll tell you why they're doing it. They created a data center within their campus, right? So within their office campus, they would create a dedicated building, and that building they'd call it as a data center, right? And what would go inside that building? They will place servers, they will place storages, right? They'll give power to it, they'll give internet to it, they'll put a cooling system because servers tend to get very hot when they're when workloads are being processed on them. So inside a data center, we used to call them on-prem data center. Or on-premises data center. All right. So you would hear this term called on-prem or on-premises, right? And basically, let's take an example that TCS is the organization that created it, right? Now TCS would put a lot of money, first of all, into building this data center. Then on top of that, they will hire employees. These employees will work inside that data center, right? You needed my data center administrators, you would need database administrators, you would need storage administrators, right? In general, you would need a lot of people to manage and maintain that data center. Correct? So what they do, they'll put a lot of money, they'll have to get the employees also, and they would create their own data center. Now once TCS created this data center inside their office campus, who would be able to access it? Only TCS employees would be able to access it. It was not accessible to the outside world. If I sit here on internet and I want to access the backbone network of TCS or a data center in TCS, I would not be able to do it. All right, because they've kept it physically isolated from the outside world, because they don't need that, right? Their employees are working on these resources. So anybody who's a TCS employee would be eligible to get access to this data center. But apart from that, general public was not allowed. All right. Now, this is called as a private cloud. We call it a private cloud. We call it cloud, but it's actually a private cloud. All right. That is a definition that Microsoft gives us. It's a private cloud. Now, the moment you talk about private cloud, right? Let me bring that slide. So organizations create a cloud environment in their own data center, which their associates access, right? Organization are themselves responsible for operating the services that they are providing through the data center. And only the associates of that organization will be eligible to get access to this data center. Correct? Is that clear?
Yes.
Right? Then something changed, right? Then, as we discussed, came the time around 2010, and we had a shift here, right? So what changed was, from private cloud, we went to a different location, all right? And now what we did was, and I'll give you a story of how it happened. Let's say Microsoft came to India, all right? This is not the actual story, right? It was not based on Microsoft coming to India, but this is in reality what happened. Microsoft thought that they are going to build a big data center here in India because they would require it, right? They were very optimistic about the business that they were going to get here. And they created a huge data center. Let's say in Bangalore, they created this huge data center, right? Now, over time, what Microsoft realized was that they were not using more than 20% of this data center. They don't require more than 20%, right? So 80% of it was lying idle and unused. All right. Let me create a similar situation, a parallel situation here. So this is you. All right. You all look really good. Excuse my drawing. And this is you. And let's say you have a family, right? So you'll have your kids, your wives, your parents. Let's say there's a family of 4 that you have, right? Assuming. And you now want to build a house for them, right? It was your dream to build a big house. And then what you did, you went and built a 4-story house, right? So this was the ground floor, this was the first floor, this was the second floor, and this was the third floor, right? And it's a big house now, right? And you put in a lot of money here. There's a lot of money that went into building this house. Over time, now you realize that I am enough for this ground story, all right? Or the ground story is, enough for my family, enough for everybody else, right? So what happened here, right? Uh, Now, what would you do in this situation? You've put in money into building these 3 stories. So what are you going to do now?
We can give rental.
Remaining 3 rental.
You've put in a lot of investment, and as with any investment, you would want some returns, correct? So you would rent it out to get some money out of it. To get some money out of this investment, you rent out these floors, correct? And that is exactly what Microsoft also started doing. They started renting out these stories, all right, or this particular space inside their data center. So they now started asking companies to come and build resources in their data center, but over the internet, and you have to pay us a rent, which is going to be an hourly rent. Clear? So that is how public cloud came into the picture. So earlier we had private cloud where organizations were building their own clouds. Now we had public cloud, right? Public cloud is owned by the cloud service provider itself, right? Or the hosting provider. In our case, it's Azure, right? It provides you resources, it provides you services, right? And your organization people can use it, right? You can access it over the internet. So that is what public cloud is. Now, for a company like TCS, they build their own data centers. We saw in the example in private cloud, these companies had built their own data centers, but they saw that there is a huge, benefit of moving to public cloud. They realized that public cloud is much better. It's much cheaper. The availability is higher, and we don't have to manage and maintain it. With private cloud, when I'm creating my own data center, I have that constant headache of working with my data center, right? Of having employees to manage my data center. If anything goes wrong, I have to be responsible for it. Whatever costs are there, I have to pay it, right? So companies started moving to public cloud, right? But when TCS moves to public cloud, what does it do with its on-premises data center? Will it destroy it? Will TCS get rid of the on-prem data center and then move to cloud? No. They
We'll migrate, correct?
continue. Yeah, sometimes they'll migrate but then they put in a lot of money, right? Because building a private cloud is very expensive. So when you put in money, you don't want to, just get rid of it, right? So for those organizations that already had a private cloud and then moved to public cloud, we have a separate cloud called hybrid cloud. All right. So we call it hybrid cloud. And these are the 3 cloud models that you'll have, right? Public cloud, private cloud, and a hybrid cloud solution. So hybrid cloud solution is where an organization is invested in both private cloud also and public cloud also. They have their own data center also, and they're taking use of Azure as well. Is that clear? Yes or no?
Yes, correct.
Right? Now, there are 2 types of costs here which are very prominent. All right. When you talk about cloud computing, you'll always have 2 different types of costs. One is called as a capex, and the other one is called as a opex. Anybody knows what the difference is or what the name is? Capex stands for capital expenditure. All right. Opex stands for operational expenditure. Capital expenditure is a one-time cost, or let's say initial investment. All right. So when you build the data center, you will have some initial investment like building cost, right? Creating the data center building, buying all the hardwares, right? So that is all capital investment, right? You're not going to buy the hardwares every month. You're going to only buy it once at the in the beginning, and then you're going to use it. So that is called as the capital expenditure, the initial investment, the one-time cost that you're going to have. And then you have some operational cost also, which is, the recurring cost, repeating cost. Can you give me an example of a recurring cost of a data center? Electricity bills, salaries, right? Internet bills. These are all repeating cost, recurring cost. You'll get you'll have to pay salaries every month. You have to pay electricity bill every month. You have to pay internet bills every month, right? Networking bills, you have to pay it every month. These are continuous, or monthly recurring costs that you have. That is called as operational expenditure. All right. So basically, the amount of money that you have to pay to keep your data center operational is called as an operational expenditure. When you talk about private cloud, do you have capex in private cloud? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, right? Okay. And the third type of cost, as I like to call it, is the rent itself, right? When you're using public cloud, you pay the rent. You're not paying for electricity or salary. You're not paying the initial hardware cost. You just pay the rent of using it, right? So there's one, there's two, and there's three. Now, this rent is a type of an operational expenditure only because you have to pay the rent every month, correct? It's an operational expenditure only because you have to pay the rent every month. If I now ask you a very simple question, which cloud is the most expensive cloud? Can you tell me the answer? Which cloud do you think is the most expensive?
Private cloud.
Private cloud. All right. Others?
Private.
All right. Private cloud has capital expenditure, correct? And along with that, it has operational expenditure also because you have to pay the salaries and everything every month. Coming to public cloud, do I have capex? In
CapEx
public
not
cloud,
required.
I don't have to pay it, right? The cloud service provider will pay it. So capex is not there. Do I have operational expenditure?
Yes.
Yes, but that is the
Yes,
rent,
we need to maintain it.
correct? We only pay the rent of using the services, and it's an hourly rent that I have to pay. All right. Coming to hybrid, what is hybrid? Is it not the sum of sorry? Is it not the sum of public and private? So I'll have capex also in private. Sorry, hybrid. I'll have opex also, and since I'm using public cloud, I'll have rent also over here. Yes. Does it make sense? Does this make sense? Do you agree with this?
Yes.
Any doubts? No? All right. Now we'll just, I'll just quickly show you one demonstration of how to create a virtual machine. Now, obviously, when we talk about Azure, we are going to cover a lot beyond this point, right? We need to understand what are the benefits of cloud, what is scalability, what is elasticity, what is availability, what is disaster recovery. Those all things we'll discover. And then we'll see how Azure is built also. But since it's a demo class, I want to give you one more demo. And that demo is going to show you how you're going to build a Windows virtual machine on Azure. And the process is very simple. All right. And I'll show it to you. And in the class, we'll discuss more on it. But let's just see. All right. How do I build a virtual machine on Azure? All right. Now I'll just give you a quick walkthrough of the Azure portal. Let me zoom in a bit. So when you start working with Azure, this is the UI that you'll get familiar with, right? This is your ID that you've used in to sign in. Below is the subscription detail. Now, like any other service, you need a subscription to work with it, right? You can't watch movies on Netflix without subscription. You can't watch sports on Hotstar without having a subscription, right? So similarly, you need a subscription here also, right? Similar to how you, let's say M365 license you need to use the Office and everything else, right? Similarly, we need a subscription to use Azure also. Now, this subscription is how you are built, all right? Based on the subscription, you will be built. So here you have the details of your ID and the name of your subscription. So my subscription is Azure Demo Environment, all right? Now, next to it, I have this feedback button. If I have any problem with Azure, I'll just click on this button and give my feedback. This is a support and troubleshoot button. If I am facing any issue and I want to see how to resolve it, I can go to this section. Then I have this directory setting, all right, or a setting pane where I can change settings related to my Azure account and I can change my directory also. Right. Next to it, I have this notification pane, right? So anything that I do on the Azure platform will create a notification, all right? So when you log in, it will show you how many credits are remaining in your account. But apart from that, whatever activities that you perform on the Azure platform, you will get a notification for it over here. Then we have a Cloud Shell, which basically opens a terminal on the browser itself, right? You don't have to, open the terminal on your machine. You can use Cloud Shell to open a terminal on the browser itself. I'll show you what you do with this terminal. You can create resources. Just by using this UI also, I can create resources, or in terminal also, I can give instructions and create resources. That is also possible. Next, I have this new integration of Copilot, where, you can ask questions. You can ask questions to Copilot. It's like an AI assistant that is going to help you, right? Generate a query to list Azure Databricks service resources by common properties, or show me all the alerts triggered during the last 24 hours. So it's basically, you can ask any question. You can ask Copilot how to create a virtual machine, and it will give you a step-by-step instruction also. This is where you can search for your resources, any resource. If I want to create a virtual machine, I'll search for a virtual machine here. If I want to create a data factory, I'll search for data factory here, right? So whatever you want to create, you just search for it here, right? If I want to create a Synapse resource, I'll search for it here. So Azure Synapse Analytics, right? Then on the left-hand side, you have a hamburger menu over here where you'll find all your favorite resources. So resources that you marked as favorite will be visible over here. Then these are your recently used resources. So whatever resources I've used recently, these are those resources. If I scroll down, I'll see my subscription, I'll see my resource groups, I'll see all the resources, I can see the dashboard also. Now, we've not discussed resource group as of now, but we will eventually in the class. Think of it like a logical folder, all right? So whenever you store some data on your machine, it is always better to create a folder, a dedicated folder for it, right? You just don't want random files scattered here and there, right? You eventually want to arrange it in a folder manner, right? Or in a folder structure, in a directory-like structure, right? So that you know what is there and you can arrange your data properly, right? Similarly, we have this logical containers, and these are called as resource groups, all right? So I'll just show you how you create a simple Windows virtual machine and how do you connect it. So to create a virtual machine, I will search for virtual machine here. So I'll select the virtual machine first. Within virtual machine, I'll click on create. If I want to create a virtual machine, I'll just select create and I'll open a virtual machine. All right. So now this brings me to a point where I now need to create my machine. Now, without subscription, the machine will not be created, obviously, because I need to be billed for this machine and billing happens through the subscription. So I need to select the subscription under which I want to create this machine, right? Then I need to select a resource group and it is mandatory. So this folder in Azure is mandatory. All right. So I'll create a new one. I'll call this demo. All right. And I'll click on OK. So I'm creating a demo resource group. All right. So I'll just click on create new and put demo. Now I need to give a name for my virtual machine. I'll call it as a Windows VM, right? So this is just an identifier for my VM. And then you have to select a region in which your virtual machine will be created. So I already told you in India, there are 3 regions, right? There is India. If I select India, right, you'll find Central India, South India, West India. Similarly, we'll create a resource in the East US 2 region. So this is present in United States. This is where we are going to create my resource. So in East US, we have a data center, and inside that data center, my virtual machine will be created. All right. Availability option is nothing. We'll discuss this more in depth, but for now, just understand that when I want to increase the availability of my virtual machine, what do I mean by availability? Now, availability means that my application or my virtual machine or whatever resource I have created is always available. I can access it whenever I want, right? So as I had told you yesterday, that there are several ways in which you can increase the availability. Now, if you see, uh, I have availability set, I have virtual machine scale set, I have availability zone. So we'll discuss this in the class. As of now, I'll select no infrastructure redundancy required. Redundancy means copies. So I don't want to create any copies of my virtual machine. I just need one single virtual machine to be created. I don't want any copies. All right. I don't want to scale it. I don't want to automatically scale it or automatically scale it down. All those policies I don't want to set up as of now. I just need one single virtual machine to be created. Security type, let it be image. Now in Azure, you can create Ubuntu and Windows machine, right? So I'll select Windows Server 2022 Data Center Edition, right? So this work machine will come with the server manager pre-installed. Apart from this, if you don't want this, you can go for Windows 11 Pro, Windows 11 Enterprise, Windows 10 Pro version also. So I'll go for Windows 11. Let's select Windows 11, right? That is there. The architecture of the VM is 64. Now the size of the VM. So I have selected one size. You have 4 virtual CPUs, 16 GB memory. So this is 11,000 per month. If it is running 24/7, it will cost you 11,000. So I'll select a very simple machine, 2 cores of CPU, 8 GB RAM. All right. So I've selected a machine with 2 cores of CPU, 8 GB RAM. There are several other, sizes available. If you see here, there is B series, D series. These are general purpose series, right? Then you have certain, compute optimized series. Various series are available, right? So within D series, you'll find various machines with 8 virtual cores, 32 GB RAM. This is the one that I wanted, right? Previously. So we are not going to worry about this. We are going to create a very simple machine with 2 virtual cores of CPU and 8 GB of RAM. All right, so I'll select this. And I'll select this one because it comes with the storage, right? So we'll talk more about the sizes, but this is where you will be selecting what is the compute you want, how much CPU you want, how much RAM you want, how much storage you want, right? All that. And the cost for that is 6,255 rupees per month if this is running 24/7. So if it runs for 24 hours in a day, right, it is going to cost me almost 200 rupees. All right, 200, upwards of 200, something around that. Then when you create a Windows virtual machine or when you open a Windows machine, do you need to create a username and password for it? You need to set up the user account on Windows, correct? Yes or no? Whenever you create a Windows machine, you need to set up a username and password for it.
Yes.
So the
Yes,
same
yes.
thing
This
I'll
is
do
required.
here also. The same thing I'll do here. I'll set up a username called Shreyas, right, which is my name, which generally people tend to keep, right? And I'll set up a password also. All right. Now the other things over here, we'll discuss it after we've discussed them in the class, right? I'll say I already have the license available here. The disk storage, you can see, you get the operating system disk that is 127 GB. That is a premium SSD. I can make it a standard SSD also, or I can make it a standard hard disk also. But hard disks, right, are not good. And we'll discuss. Basically, if the hard disks are more prone to get damaged, SSDs are not, right? So I can select a standard SSD over here. Networking, a virtual network is created. Now, when you want to talk to somebody on the phone, do you only have to be inside a network or both the people need to be in the network? What do you think? If I want to talk to somebody, let's say you want to talk to your friends, do their mobile phones need to be in a network? Yes or no?
Yes, both
Yes,
of them
it
network.
should be.
Both of them should be in the network. So I am already in a network. I'm connected to the internet. That means I am already a part of a network. So the other machine to which I am connecting should also be a part of network. Yes or no? That machine should also be able, should have internet access. I should be able to access that machine over the internet. Correct? Yes or no?
Correct. Correct.
Yes,
Correct.
yes.
So therefore, for that machine which will be created in East US, a virtual network is getting created. This is not an actual network. You'll not have a router here, and all those things. That machine will not connect to the router. It's a software-based network, all right? It's a software emulation of a network, all right? So like that, a virtual network is created. My machine will be a part of this virtual network, right? And my machine will have something called as a public IP also. A public IP is a must if I want to connect to this machine over the internet. If my resource does not have a public IP, I cannot connect to it over the internet. It needs to have a public IP address. All right. In your machine also, you will have a public IP address and you will have a private IP address also. We'll discuss the difference between the two in the class. All right. Now, if you would have seen, when you connect to a router, right? Earlier, back in the day, people used to play, LAN games, right? People used to play Counter Strikes, right? Has anybody here played Counter Strike on your machine, connecting to the LAN with your friends? You did not need internet connectivity. At that point, what you got was a private IP address. But a public IP address is also essential if you want to connect to the internet. I'll not be able to connect to the internet if I don't have a public IP address, right? Then management, monitoring, all these things we'll discuss later. I'll just create this. As of now, I've just shown you a skeleton version of creating a virtual machine, nothing else. And look at the cost. Just look at the cost. It is 8.56 rupees per hour. So if I'm using this machine for 10 hours a day and then closing it after that, right, stopping the VM after that, I am not gonna be charged more than 80 rupees a day. I'll click on create. Now the validation happens, right? There's a service in Azure that will validate whatever request you've made to Azure. It will validate whether we can provision those resources or not, and then it will start creating the resources. So the deployment is submitted. It will take hardly 2 minutes for this machine to be up and running. All right. And then I'll show you how you're going to connect to this machine. All right. So we just wait for 2 minutes. We'll wait for this machine to be created. So it will automatically update the status of what is getting created, the entire deployment, right? A machine is not just a single machine, it is a collection of components. So in your machines, in your laptops that you're connected to this meeting today, right? You all joined us from your laptops. Have you heard of this hardware called network interface card? Have you heard about this hardware? Yes or no? So there is one hardware
No.
inside, there's a chip, all right? There's a chip inside your machine, which is called as a network interface card. That hardware, that chip allows you to connect to Wi-Fi or LAN, all right, inside your machine. So that network interface card gets created here also, all right? If you see, this is a network interface getting created. You have a virtual network getting created. NSGs are something different. I'll talk to you about NSGs in the class. Public IP getting created, because if I need to connect to this resource, I need to have a public IP. Without public IP, I cannot connect to it. All right. So it will take some time, some 2-3 minutes it takes for the virtual machine to be up and ready, because the compute has to be provisioned. 2 cores of CPU, 8 GB RAM, I think, that needs to be provisioned. Azure has to allocate it to for this machine, and then the machine will be created using everything. All right. It needs to set up the operating system also. It needs to set up all the internal workings and the internal parts of this machine. All right. We'll just wait for this to be completed. All right.
Suresh, I have doubt.
Yeah, go ahead.
In the organization, like a networking team, they will create like all these things, correct? Like we can just going and working on it, correct?
Your voice is a bit fuzzy. Can you
No. I'm asking
uh-huh.
like whenever we can join the organization, like in Azure account, like automatically they created correct networking team. We are not doing like these things and all. We just for the practicing purpose we can do it. Correct?
No, there will be requirements where you'll have to do all of this on your own. All right. In a lot of projects, you have
Okay.
to create these resources.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. So my virtual machine is now created. How do I connect to it? Now there are multiple ways of doing it. If you are on a Windows-based machine, if everybody here today is on a Windows-based machine, and you please go to the search menu. Everybody go to the search menu and search for something called as a remote desktop connection. You'll find this application called remote desktop connection. Can you see that in Windows machine? Those of you who are using Windows machine, go to search and search for something called as remote desktop connection. I'll type it here, remote desktop connection.
This
Did
is
you find
also
it?
called as a jump server, no?
Yes. No,
Yes,
this is
yes.
not a jump server, but jump server is a different definition. All right, that is for security purpose, or a jump box we call it, right? So you will see something like this opens up. All right. Now, one way to connect is to copy this IP address, the public IP address that gets assigned to your machine, and paste it here and click on connect. All right. So whatever public IP address is given to your machine, you can directly copy this, go to the remote desktop connection application and put it there. The other way is to connect, click on connect, and then download this RDP file. This will, basically open remote desktop connection only, but in a configured way. It will have access to the username. It will have the public IP also. I don't have to put in the public IP address. I don't have to put in the username. All I'll have to do is put in the password. So if I show you, if I save this, so my remote desktop connection is downloaded. The RDP file is downloaded. I'll open this RDP file. The moment I open it, right, I get this, that I want to connect to a remote computer which has this IP address. I'll click on connect. Once I do that, it'll ask me for, credentials. So the username was set to Shreyas. I don't have to put it now, right? The IP address is this. I'll just put in my password here. Whatever password I had kept, I'll put it here and click on OK. And then I get, a warning, right, or something. You just click on yes. And your virtual machine loads. So this is my virtual machine loading. Let me minimize this. So now you can see if I make it full screen, I'll be able to see a Windows 11 machine. And this machine is currently created in East US, and I'm going to access it. All right. As if it was a machine that I'm, using currently. Now you can go inside this machine and do whatever you want, right? You can host your applications here. This machine could be used for various purposes, right? I click on next here, accept. It just set up because we are launching this machine for the first time, right? And we have the setup here. So the machine is up and running. Um, Now this internet that you see here, this is all within the data center. If I show you, right, and it's very amazing also, the kind of speeds that they get within that data center. Right? If I just check the internet speed, right, this is not my internet speed. This is the internet speed of the internet that we are getting within that data center. All right, it is in GBs. You will get 2 Gbps or 1 Gbps, that amount kind of speed you get, right? So this machine that I have open here on the screen is actually present in US. I am accessing this machine over the internet, right? And I created it from scratch. And towards the end of this course, you would be creating such resources like a virtual machine, like a database, like a storage account, managing the virtual network, creating or managing identity and access management, right? Managing Entra ID, giving access to other users. You will be able to do all of this, with a lot of ease and proficiency. Is that clear? Did you think this was a hard process, creating a virtual machine? Was it a hard process? Obviously, you need to know some more terms, but then overall, was it very difficult?
No, no, no.
No, right? It was fairly
Mm,
No.
easy. If you have understanding of what
mm.
all goes into creation of the machine, what configurations I need to set, you will be a pro at it. And that is what we are going to do. We are going to make you pro at, you know, uh, creating these resources on Azure, and then creating your data engineering based resources also in Azure, and then working with those resources in Azure. All right. So this is the kind of understanding that you're going to get in the class, right? We did not discuss a lot of things, right? Since it's a demo class, I have a time constraint. I have to, show you something working. But then we'll see everything that goes into the creation. So you can just minimize this and close it and have your regular window here. But we did not do a lot of things, right? I did not show you what a virtual network is, but eventually virtual network is very interesting. When you come to the creation of virtual network, there is CIDR notation. You need to understand about what is DHCP, what is DNS, right? And we'll discuss each and everything. We'll discuss how DHCP is used, or the DHCP server is used to allocate IP addresses, right? We'll see how DNS stores, uh, my records. So all of that we'll see, and you'll have a complete understanding of the entire process and the entire understanding of how Azure works, right? So today we discussed about Azure. We discussed about what is cloud computing, how it came into the picture, what is public cloud, what is private cloud, what is hybrid cloud. Right? We got a brief idea about that. And then how do I work with the Azure platform and create a resource? So we created a virtual machine. Tomorrow we'll see one of the data engineering resources. Let's create pipelines tomorrow. All right. I want to show you how you can transfer your data from one place to the other place using pipelines, right? And when the pipelines are created, you will have the same answer. It was so easy. It was very easy. Clear? So for
Yes,
today,
it's clear, clear.
for
Yes,
today,
I have one
yeah,
doubt.
yeah, go
Can
ahead.
I ask you? Yeah.
Mhm.
So why we need to choose the Azure platform? Why we not choose the AWS? Just I am asking. I have not idea about AWS and Azure.
Yeah. So see, eventually it all comes
Mm,
down to what, see, the cloud service providers are offering. Today,
mm,
yes, I will accept to the fact that AWS has a bigger market share than Azure, right?
mm.
It has. But
Correct.
if you look at the numbers, AWS has around 32% and Azure has around 30%, right? So it's not
Mm,
a night and day difference between the two. They're almost similar. But the real difference is, if you go and search it also, you can find it on your own also. The growth at which Azure is growing and the growth with which AWS is growing. Azure has a very high growth rate currently because AWS had a head start on Azure, right? That is why the bigger market share. And in the beginning,
okay.
right, Azure services were not that great, right, in the beginning. But now Azure is stepping up its game on the cloud computing. And trust me, most of the organizations will shift to Azure only. All right. Because
Okay.
because the kind of Microsoft stack that these organizations are using, and Azure is integrating everything together, right? So eventually it will all come down to Azure, is what I believe, right? And as I told you, once you understand how to create resources on Azure, you're not going to have a lot of difficulty in understanding AWS also. You just need to understand the gist of it, because the services are similar. They offer the same task, just the terminology changes, some configuration will change, but the idea of the resource remains the same. If I create a data warehouse in Azure, I will create the same data warehouse in AWS also. If I'm creating a relational database here, I can create the relational database there also. All right.
Okay.
Yeah. So we are going to
Mhm.
go with Azure because it's the, I think yesterday, I'm not sure if you were there or not, in most of the jobs, almost 70% of the jobs, right, on data engineering have Azure as a keyword mentioned there. All right. So you
Yeah,
need to
yeah,
have
yeah. In my
understanding of the Azure
company
platform.
is still some of the means teams are working in Azure, and some of the teams is working in AWS. That's why I'm asking to you.
No, no. See, in general organizations, you'll find both. You'll find GCP also. even though GCP has only a 10% market share. All right.
Mhm.
But you will find Google also. So it's not that you will not find them at all. But then again, AWS, Azure, these are the market leaders.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Thank you, Suresh.
Yeah. So
for-
tomorrow we'll work with data engineering services, right? Tomorrow I'll demo you something there, and then day after tomorrow we'll have our regular classes. All right.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Hi, hi Shreyas.
Yeah. Hi.
One more question. So,
Mhm.
it was mentioned in the flyer that Azure Databricks also will be going through Azure Databricks as well, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
do we need to have a basic Python learning before we come
Yes.
to this
Absolutely.
course?
No,
Mm-hmm.
not this course.
Mm-hmm.
See, initially we are not going to do anything with Python. It will be generally SQL. So SQL is a
Okay.
prerequisite, right?
Okay.
But
Mm-hmm.
you have enough time. I think you have around 4 weeks of time to brush up your Python skills, right?
Okay.
We'll be
Mm-hmm.
using PySpark, but
Mm-hmm.
you just need to have basic understanding of Python. I will teach you PySpark from the basics.
Okay.
I'll teach you PySpark from a point where you would have no idea how to deal with data using PySpark, and eventually you will have all the understanding you need to read the data, to write the data, to transform the data using PySpark.
Okay. Just a quick basic thing. So, all these Azure data pipelines, is it built out of Python, or how is
No,
it?
no, no. So the
It's kind
concept
of
of
tool.
pipeline itself is a low code, no code solution, right? So
Huh?
we don't need code, right?
So
If you
it's
want
kind
to
of
attach,
Informatica, right? Kind
yeah,
of
it's a
Snap
drag
Logic
and drop
pipeline.
tool.
We are.
Yes,
Oh,
drag
okay.
and drop UI based pipelines. But if you want to
Mm-hmm.
attach a script, a SQL script within the pipeline, if you want to run, you can
Mm-hmm.
run it. If you want to run Python code, also you can run it through notebooks. We'll discuss that.
Okay.
It's a
Sure.
part of our data factory and Databricks integration, where if you want to implement a code based transformation, that also
Mm-hmm.
you can add to the pipeline. All right, but
Okay.
eventually data movement and a bit of data transformation, mapping data flows, they do not require any code. All right, it's just the UI based drag and drop tool. That's the whole point of creating pipelines, right? That you don't want to manage those long files, codes, right? You don't want to write all of that Python scripts and everything. So that is
Okay.
what the pipelines are going to help you achieve.
Okay. So I'm from EST time zone and I cannot actually attend the live classes. So what's the other possibility to attend these classes?
Uh,
Yeah,
you,
Sindhu, actually you have to attend in the morning session or weekend session. Or if
Oh,
you
do you
are
have both weekend and morning sessions?
as of now, morning we are not preferring because in
Mhm.
India people feeling difficult to join the morning session. So
Okay.
weekend batch already going on. So it will take some time to start next batch.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I will get in touch with you.
Yeah, yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah. Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, hi sir. I have some questions. Can I ask?
yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, for data engineer, what are the primary skill set we need actually? For
For
data, if you want become a data engineer, right? We need
Mhm.
some skill set, right?
Yes, absolutely. So first
Yeah,
of all, SQL and Python, right? Python,
yeah,
even if
those.
you do not know Python as of now, it is fine. But eventually, you'll need to be pro at Python. You'll need to be pro at SQL, right? Those two are the languages that you will need. Apart from the languages, you need to be expert in tools like a data lake or services like a data lake, data transformation services like Databricks, right? You need to understand data factory. You need to understand Synapse. So these are the services that you need to understand, cloud-based services that are required for data engineering.
That means
So
yeah,
tools,
ETL.
I,
ETL. Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
ETL
yes.
tools on Azure, and then programming understanding of SQL is a prerequisite for this course. Python, you'll have enough time to practice Python. We'll be sharing videos with you that you can go through before we start, with Spark and Python.
Yeah, these four skill set we must need it, right? As well.
Yes, yes,
SQL
absolutely.
and Python and cloud and ETL service.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Other than this, PySpark also included in
Yeah,
this
when I
only.
say Python, right, I'm referring to PySpark
Uh-huh.
only.
PySpark. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Yeah, you suppose if I join the course, right? If I
Mhm.
spend 2 months or 3 months, right? How the flexible, how the job placement? That means I'm asking, what is the percentage like getting placed like that? I'm asking.
See, eventually, this is a question that I get asked a lot. But then this is a question that you have to answer, right? You need to work that much. You need to bring your skill set up to a point, right? Eventually, it all comes down to how much of hard work are you willing to put in, right? The better you work, the more you practice whatever we are doing in the class. You're regular. You're practicing everything, right? The better opportunity for you to get, a really good job. So it all comes down to, we'll be covering everything. We'll be covering everything that is required. But then the hard work needs to come from you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah. Hi.
Hey. So I just joined just 5 minutes back only. So
Mhm.
I have some work on that. I just joined. So I have some question on this one only. Now, so Azure, it's a tool based only, or we need to learn on Python, we need to do the scripting on this one, we need to do the data frames on this one. What exactly this one exactly?
Yeah. So Azure is the tool on which you'll be working, right? Not Azure, but the services that you'll be working on. And along with that, initially you will require understanding of SQL, right? When we reach Spark, PySpark, Databricks, that is where Python and data frames and all of these things come in. All right.
Mhm.
So we'll reach Databricks almost in 4 weeks, around 4 weeks of time, right? 4.5 weeks later, we'll start with Python. We'll do Python in the class. I'll show you what Python is. Basics of Python we'll do. But with PySpark, we'll start absolutely right from scratch. And with respect to Databricks, we'll be doing a lot of transformation, a lot of various features that Databricks offers. We'll try to implement it using PySpark, and you'll understand it. You'll have no problem in understanding it.
Mm.
That is the benefit of Python, right? It's the readability of this language is really
Yeah,
good.
I know that PySpark only. I learned few things on PySpark.
Mhm.
I know that
So
on
reading the
PySpark
data,
how
writing
the
the
system.
data, transforming the data,
Mm,
mounting data
yeah.
lake, all those things
But
we'll do.
only thing I have some confusion on this one, like like Informatica or other kind of tools, right? So source kind of transformation. In between, we are using the transformation. So
Mhm.
that kind of tool, Azure or something like that.
See,
Everything we need to do the
Azure is an
coding.
ecosystem. Azure is not a tool.
Mm,
It's an ecosystem of various tools. All
okay.
right. So here you find tools that can help you with AI also. Here you can find tools that will help you with data engineering also, data science also, data
Mm,
analyst also, right? And apart from data related job, there are other jobs also, right? For example,
mm.
uh, cloud engineers, cloud administrators, database administrators, other things are also there. So it provides a tool for all of. We'll be studying a set of services that are, going to be relevant for data engineering.
Okay. So service is nothing but we can call it as transformation or how it is. I mean, different kind of services, right?
Services as in tools, yes. Data factory is a tool,
Okay.
Synapse is a tool, Databricks is a tool, right? And these tools
Mm,
will help you
mm,
perform ETL.
okay. So we don't have kind of specific transformations we can include.
We'll be doing
Like
transformations within the tools, right?
yeah, within the through Python
Mm.
code only we can do the transformation logic, right?
Not really. If you want to do, we
Mm,
can
okay.
see within Synapse, we'll be doing it using SQL, right? Within
Hmm.
Databricks, we'll be using PySpark. Within Azure Data Factory, we'll not be using any code, right? So it's a low code, no code solution of transformation. So various
Okay.
different
Like
options you'll see.
think about any kind of pipeline which is coming from source. In between, we are
Mm.
using the
Yes,
transformations like
yes. Mm.
expression aggregator or any other sort or something like that. So
Absolutely.
directly other kind of tools, right? Directly we can pull the predefined transformations, right? Then we can do that only. We can implement the pipeline and we can load the data. Like that, we can do through data engineering Azure tool only, or so back end like that means we can write the Python code like data frames, whatever,
You can
including
do
right
both.
PySpark
You
code.
can
Yeah.
there's a
We
flexibility
can
to
do
do
both.
anything.
Okay.
It- yeah.
Okay.
In
Yeah, that's
Databricks
you
also,
have some
right?
kind of.
Language itself, right?
Mm,
You have Python, right? Python is not the only language that you can use.
mm.
You can use Java, you can use Scala, you can use R. So
Yeah, I
it's
understand.
very
You can do anything, but only
Hmm.
thing, I
Yeah,
mean, if you want to do the user friendly, then we can fetch the predefined
absolutely.
transformations existing.
There are multiple
So
ways
then
of doing
we
the
can.
same task. Yes.
I know the Databricks how they are doing in Python. I
Mhm.
know previously I work for some Informatica to Databricks migration. We have loaded the data into ADLS,
Yeah.
then after that we have transformed the data into
Yeah.
Databricks only through Python code only. But actual Azure we can
Data
implement
frames.
some
Yes.
kind of confusion. Some people they're working on their data engineering, so it's like a similar kind of ETL tool. They're using some kind of transformation logic, and they're implementing. But exactly some kind of confusion on this, whether they're tool based or we can write the code like Java, Python, any kind of code backend scripting. Then we can run that. So without using any predefined transformations. So some kind of doubt on this one. So that means you're saying about some kind of services, Databricks, Synapses, like that. We can
Yes.
do that only, right?
Data
Mm.
factory. So within the tools, right, there are various ways of doing. You can use SQL also. I can create an external table and then use ETAS to put that in a persistent table. That is one way of doing it. If I want to create that
Mhm.
the same logic using pipeline, I don't have to write a single line of code, and I can move my data from place A to place B without even creating an external table, without even adding the data into a persistent table. So as I said, uh, I'll show you everything. Then eventually it comes down to your use
Mm.
case, what is beneficial for you, what is easier for you, right? And you'll be able to work with it.
Yeah, that's what nowadays low code, no code, something that kind of
Yes.
things come
So that
right
is data
through
factory for you. Yes.
AI, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
predefined template, everything will
Suresh,
come right.
Suresh, no?
yeah.
Suresh, I have a lot of question. So currently I have a SQL and Linux knowledge. So do you require for Python also in this course?
Python, I'll be sharing videos
Uh,
with you. Just basic understanding
uh,
of Python is required. We'll be doing
uh,
PySpark from scratch. All right. So you'll understand that. There is no problem with PySpark. I'll make you
okay,
understand
okay.
PySpark. Hmm?
Okay, then no need to learn anything from anywhere, right?
Basic of Python you should start with. If you really want to become a good data engineer, right? Python is a must.
Okay,
Hmm?
okay, we got it.
All right then, guys. So I'll see you all tomorrow again, right? Please
Yeah, yeah.
don't
Can you
forget to
show
join.
one kind of pipeline with predefined transformations? How the, I mean, it
I'll
is,
I'll,
I
I'll,
mean,
I'll show it to
overall
you tomorrow.
flow.
I'll create
Okay.
a
Say
mapping data
so.
flow for you tomorrow.
Thank you for the session.
Yeah,
I am dropping
yeah,
because thank you.
yeah. Thank you. I'll show it to you
Okay.
tomorrow. Hmm? All right. Thank
Okay.
you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So tomorrow also the same meeting
Same
link.
time. Yeah.
So you can join as a free session.
Thank you, team. Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, everyone.